The following program is paid for by the Real Estate Radio Network.
You're listening to Real Estate Radio Fresno on 105.9 The FM KMJ. Now, live in studio, your host, local real estate expert, Craig Barton.
Good morning, Central Valley. I'm your host, Craig Barton, and welcome to the Real Estate Radio Network, the most important hour of radio each week, here on 105.9 The FM KMJ. Real Estate Radio is a show dedicated to bringing some rational thought to the crazy world that we live in and helping you to rebuild the Central Valley's housing and credit markets. Within every market, there are solutions as well as tremendous opportunities. You just need some trusted advice, and that's exactly what you're going to hear every Sunday morning from 7 to 8 a.m. right here on 105.9 The FM KMJ.
Had to push that cough button.
Had to push the cough button. How is that working for you?
Yeah. It's early yet. I'm a little congested this morning.
I'm a little stuffy, huh?
I'm a little stuffy.
You a little stuffy?
Yeah. A little stuffy.
Are you doing good?
I'm doing great.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You rolled out of bed?
Yeah. I told you. I spent last Sunday with my grandson.
Yeah.
I'm a happy
You're a happy
girl.
mama?
That's
happy
right.
grandma?
That's right.
A girl. Well, that little munchkin voice here in the studio that you just heard this morning.
We represent... Oh, sorry.
That is quite an introduction. Do you need to say her name? I'm pretty sure everybody knows who that is.
That's Gelda the Good Witch.
Gelda the Good Witch. Today, anyway.
Hey.
Okay, now she's starting to squint and look kind of crazy now.
Good morning, folks.
We'll get back to you in a minute once you assume that other personality. We're really fortunate this morning.
He really didn't say my name, did he?
No, you need no introduction.
Oh, my God.
You
that's
need
so
no
sweet.
introduction.
Okay. Michelle Pettis Cavalli.
Oh, my God, she's here?
Yes, she
All
is.
right.
She's signing out autographs in the
That's
hall
right.
now.
Actually,
so.
she's out signing listing contracts.
Oh.
Is she really?
Yeah, she is, just so you know. Keep
Yeah.
going. All right.
Doing everything she can to
That's right.
sell Valley-wide.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, though, I did get quite a few contacts this week in regards to listing after our conversation last week.
Really?
So I want to hear.
That's great.
I want to hear what Kate has to say about what's going on out there, and I hear she's here today. Oh, there she is babbling again. Hi, Kate.
There she is babbling.
She's here.
You're just trying to drag everybody
I was
down.
away for so long.
I know.
need to get my time in.
I wasn't sure I recognized her.
Yeah.
I look so different. Aged a little bit.
Oh, my
Wow.
goodness.
Okay, everybody just passed that one right over. Okay.
Not touching
All
that
right. That youthful-looking voice that you hear in the studio, that's
Thank you.
Kate Island. Miss Kate Island from UBS Financial Services. Our
great.
financial expert back in
Yes.
the studio today for our Market Watch update.
It is great to be back. I felt like I was away for so long.
Well,
You kinda
every single
were.
week we've been telling the listeners that she's on assignment.
I am. I was on assignment.
It was top secret assignment.
Yes, but I'm here.
You're going to fill us in on it today.
I will fill you in.
Awesome.
Atta girl. Well, great to have you both in the studio with us today. Well, the Real Estate Radio Network gives us the opportunity to reach so many people efficiently for one full hour each and every week. Our goal at the Real Estate Radio Network is to get you, our listeners, the timely and accurate truth about your local real estate market so we can help bring you
Back home.
back home. That's what it's all about.
That's right.
Yeah, a house is
A home.
a home.
Well, they will make it their home.
You got that right.
It is so cool, too.
Let's take a look at today's show. We're going to take a look at some of the top stories in the news. And honestly, we were talking before the show, Kate, there really is no shortage of positive news.
Coming out of the housing market, it is incredible.
Yeah,
That's why you're here, to share.
Yes.
I'm so excited.
Good.
it's incredibly
Good.
scary. No,
No, I mean, honestly,
it's positive.
we're waiting for Ben to call and tell us we're good, but we're thinking you can supplement.
I can just,
Yeah.
I can fill in until he calls.
Until he calls.
Until he
Awesome.
rings.
Yeah.
Well, California home prices post gains in December.
Woohoo!
And pretty large gains. Also, there is a new... This is a dirty
Do you
word.
dare say this word?
No.
Yeah, there is a new subprime loan
God strike you right now. I'm sorry.
that just might be right around the corner.
Yeah, that's a little concerning.
Yeah, when I read this article, it was a little more than concerning. Yes, exactly. And the Federal Housing Administration is expected to hike mortgage insurance premiums coming up here shortly.
Are they trying to balance their budget?
Yeah, they're trying to make themselves
I
a little
thought
more
they
liquid.
hadn't dipped into their reserves yet.
That's
a couple months ago.
a little
so-
accounting trick. I think
Yeah,
that's what that was
I think
called.
so.
And lastly, and I know, Kate, you've got something to say about this, the housing market, housing itself is now expected to do what we've all expected it to for...
Is this, I'm just concerned that they're just now catching up with our news.
Really?
Like the three of us have been saying this for over a year. Housing is going to lead us to...
It's going to take us to the promised land.
Honestly, I think it's just hard to believe because
people's
the
negativity?
Hit. Well, yeah, I mean, just the hit that the housing market took and all of these subsectors that it kind of bled into.
Sure.
But, and obviously the devastation that it caused. But if you look at if the reverse happens and all the subsectors that the goodness bleeds into, like this is what we're seeing. And it's great. I mean, it's great. It is great news on a local level, but also on a national level. So it's very exciting.
Yeah. And there's a story with that when you talk about bleeding into all the subsectors that it affects. So when the housing market takes a huge downturn, I had a long conversation with a young man on this last Saturday, whose father worked in the tile industry, and what the downturn in housing had done to his father and their collective family.
Absolutely.
And the effect that it's had. And I tell you what, it was in short, it was devastating. But we'll get to that.
Right. But the good news is the reverse can happen.
Exactly. And in this particular instance, housing is expected to drive our recovery.
Absolutely.
Finally.
Yes.
Finally. And as we mentioned, we've also got Kate Island from UBS Financial Services here in the studio with us today for our Market Watch update. And we're also going to take some listener questions. Make sure you stay with us. Again, if you have any real estate or mortgage-related questions or just questions regarding the information that we share with you here on our show, it all starts with one call, and that's a call from you. Call us anytime, 800-979-3958. Again, that's 800-979-3958. We would love to hear from you. We'd love to field your questions as well. You can also check out our resources online. Go to our website, reofresnohomes.com. You can also listen to past shows from the Real Estate Radio Network. To friend us on Facebook, use Press 4 keywords.
Friend Valley White on Facebook.
Or use Press 4 keywords.
KMJ, call Valley White.
To get connected to us anytime. We'd love to hear from you. Well, real quick, if you don't know what Press 4 is, go to your app store. It's PRESS, the number 4.com. Go to their website. Follow the easy setup instructions and help us send timely information about the stories that we talk about on today's show or any show for that matter to you, all at the touch of a button. It's for all those times when you're away from your computer. Let's take a look at today's hot property. Well, today's hot property is brought to you by Perfect Inspections. And Jerry does some pretty perfect inspections, doesn't he?
He does. I love Jerry. And I'm always emailing him, hey, Jerry, can you send me another copy of that report? I need another copy. Here we go again, sister. Yes, here's another copy. He's always helping me and doing funny things.
There you go. Well, whether it's residential, single family, or multifamily or commercial, use Press 4 keywords, Perfect Home Inspections, or call Jerry Schooley today for your perfect home inspection at 352-6941. Again, that's 352-6941. Well, today's hot property is also the same hot property that we featured on last week's show, and the reason being is it is a special, and I say that, it's a special property. It's a Leo Wilson at 3360 Buckingham Avenue in Clovis, and it's 93619. This particular property was appraised at $308,000, so FHA appraisal for $308,000. It is a HUD home, and that's the reason why there was an FHA appraisal completed on the property. 4-bedroom, 3-bath, 2,740 square feet, built in 2009, so roughly about 3 years old. This property is available for daily bidding, and that appraisal, as we mentioned, has already been completed and will save you, if you're a buyer, or your buyer, if you're an agent, roughly the cost of an appraisal is somewhere in the ballpark of about $450. Investors, unfortunately, need not apply. This is owner-occupied only during the first 30 days. So owner-occupants, you don't have to worry about competing with investors like so many of the other properties you see out on the market.
It's a beautiful property.
It really is clean.
In great condition.
Exactly, in great condition. Well, bidding deadline is daily at 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. If you'd like more information about today's hot property, please give us a call anytime, 800-979-3958. Again, that's 800-979-3958. Or use Press 4 keywords,
KMJ Hot Property.
and we'll send you more information about this hot property right to your phone. Look for more hot properties each week right here on the Real Estate Radio Network. Well, let's take a look at some of the top stories in the news. Well, as of this morning, 1,066 listings. I tell you what, the closer we get to 1,000, the more I start to chafe. It's
scary.
It is really.
No, why do you say that's scary?
Okay, well, lack of inventory with the number of buyers we have out there.
Oh.
The properties aren't on the market for more than a lot of them. Let's just be honest. A lot of them, 24, 48 hours, and it's gone.
That's crazy.
It may not be posted in the system yet, but it's gone. I spoke with a client yesterday, or a potential seller yesterday, who was making appointments because the agent wasn't available to make the appointments. He had 4 offers, and he had been on the market one day, and was showing the house through that day, and no more, because they've already got 4 offers within 24 hours. They had 4 offers.
Yeah.
Why bother?
And that's
why set yourself up to be showing your house, keeping it perfectly clean, doing all those things when you don't have to?
It's like literally just one day, and you can probably get the house sold. That's amazing.
If you're pricing it according to the market,
right?
If you're being real with yourself, and evidently they are. They got 4 offers on the table.
That's great.
Yeah,
I think that kind of sense, or that kind of common sense, is priced in today's market. Mm-hmm. But then the flip side of the coin is you're always going to find that there are those sellers out there, if they are traditional sellers. Mm-hmm. And that's where you typically find that component. If you're a traditional seller or if you're Fannie Mae, because Fannie Mae is going to price properties typically 15% over what the current appraised value might be in that particular market, because that's Fannie Mae's attempt to stabilize housing prices, and they've been doing it for 4 or 5 years. Mm-hmm. And the reason being is because the Fannie Mae Home Path product that you're able to utilize on that particular home does not require an appraisal. So all you have to do is put an offer on that property, and voila.
Her jaw just dropped.
Yeah.
How can you sell a home without an appraisal?
Well, you can't unless you use their financing, which is a Fannie Mae government.
Can you hear the eye roll?
All righty, moving right along.
Yeah.
I would like to pray that they're really just cushioning it because they see the market going up, and by the time the house sells, it'll be a higher market. That's my prayer, that they're not trying to run the numbers. But anyways.
How many times, I'm not trying to lambast Fannie Mae, but how many times do you hear agents talking about, well, just so you know, you might be owing a little bit more than market. How do you justify to your client?
Seriously.
I mean, really seriously.
Especially in this market, with as fragile as things were, how do you justify overpaying, in 1 cent?
Yeah. There's a house right down the street. And this made my wife really happy. And you know that when my wife gets happy, she's a happy kid. Yeah, it's good news.
When Mama's happy.
Yeah, when Mama's happy. And it sold for $236,500. Fannie Mae property, and there was not one comparable that justified that sales price.
So
but guess what? Now it's the new comp for that neighborhood.
Of course
it's a good thing. It is a good thing.
It is. It's good for this. It's good for the owners. They feel good.
But
at the same time, if a true appraisal was done, it might not have made that number.
Didn't we have an issue before with inflated home prices?
Yeah.
But it's okay if Fannie Mae does it. Come on,
government can do whatever they want.
Exactly.
Right.
They don't need we don't need no stinking appraisal.
Sign here. Just sign here.
So I'm sorry, I'm flabbergasted right now. But as an agent, do you have to disclose the fact that there is no appraisal needed, and typically the pricing is this much more, and it's not matching any of the comps, and you're probably overpaying? That would be a hard sell if you're really going to be honest with the buyer.
But you want this house really bad, right?
Yeah, no. Every house I show, I hand them comps. They walk away with comps. And I'm very, very frank with them.
And it usually makes the decision for them. They say, oh, wow, okay.
I don't want my clients moving in and being upside down and a year later saying, Michelle, why'd you let me do that?
Well, that's not good for your business. That's not good for repeat customers or referrals or anything.
So, they walk out with comps when I show a property. So if you want to see a property and see the real comps, call me.
Okay.
You call me, Kate. We'll do lunch. We'll do lunch.
There you go.
All right, moving right along.
So, January, 561 units sold. So we're just. Yeah,
well,
just
if someone might close escrow, there would have been more. I'm just saying.
Okay.
They just aren't quite done yet. They're still cooking.
They're still cooking. Sounds like you're a bitter pill this morning, huh?
Just frustrated. This market.
It was not too long ago. The way we were trending prior to October, we were trending roughly about 740 sold units per month year to date. And we've seen the numbers all over the board. 913 sold units in October, 600 sold units in November, 537 units sold in December, 561 sold in January. So we're just slightly over 2 months of active inventory, which unfortunately is not all that uncommon a predicament for markets in California, where we're seeing statewide that inventories are just inherently low.
Right.
And I'm wondering, because we did hit our holiday months, November, December, and then January takes the last bit of that. I am hoping that we'll see some stronger numbers in February and some stronger listing numbers in February now that the holidays have passed.
Right.
Well, we could only hope.
Well, and question for you, because we've seen a backup in yields. I mean, I think the 10-year, just even from like 2 months ago, went from 1.6 and now it's around 2%. So have you seen that bleed through to mortgage rates?
Yep, most definitely.
And does that... a difference of 3.5 versus 3 3/4. The rate is still phenomenal, but it doesn't really have an effect on the buyer's psyche or anything like that.
You hit it, I think, right on the head, Kate. Is that ultimately when the day is done, depending upon what your credit score is, depending upon what your loan to value is, if it's conventional financing, it may have been the net effect of roughly 0.25% in rate. On the high side. Mm-hmm. On the high side.
Which still makes a difference.
Yeah. With FHA financing, not so much or not as much. But the largest impact has been on conventional financing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Well, also, did you know that cash buyers and an investment uptick, in other words, those buyers that are looking to purchase investment properties, helped to boost California median home prices. Sales in December were up 0.8% from a revised 518,460 in November and up 0.9% from a revised 517,730 in December of 2011. The statewide figures represents what would be the total number of homes sold during 2012 if sales maintained the December pace throughout the year. Now, the statewide median price of an existing single-family detached home climbed 5% from November's $349,300 median price to $366,000, $930 price in December.
Aren't we glad we live in Fresno?
Oh, my gosh. Well, we were talking about it last week as far as...
What's our average sales price right now? We have 180 and some change.
$180,894 as of December.
Yeah. And that's, God love it, because of where we live.
That's as of January.
Yeah, that's because of the valley and where we live.
Right.
So our medium home price is not even near what it is in...
That makes a huge difference in the
San Francisco, San Diego, all those other folks.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the amount of money that you save over a lifetime just by where you choose to live is huge. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, where you choose to work also has a huge impact on...
Yeah, exactly.
I do know that.
It just can't earn the same kind of dollars working here.
But it's nice. I mean, it's nice to know, though, that we're seeing stabilization. We're seeing some growth overall.
There is good news. The scary thing for me, though, is when you start... All I have to do is say 2005... And I start to get like the chills and the shakes and here's another article that I think helps to push me in that direction. Well, housing advocates push for a new type of subprime loan.
Okay, that scares me because I want to know who's pushing. Because I'm looking at the requirements for FHA and I'm looking at the requirements for conventional, and they actually seem appropriate. Yeah. We actually feel okay about this. And so, as agents, like we're looking at it going, okay, you can't have more than, 45% of your income going towards your home. Okay, that doesn't, out. Yeah. That doesn't sound, I'm sorry, that doesn't sound so bad, especially in this economic environment in our world right now.
Right. Sure. And again, like subprime loans were invented so that people who traditionally could not qualify for a home purchase and really didn't have the financial situation that would make them a good person buyer and person to lend money to. So we're opening this back up again?
Yeah.
Well, this to me it sounds a bit of a tweener. But still,
between what and what?
Let's hear it. Sorry.
Tell me more, baby. Tell me more.
This particular product is called the Dignity Mortgage.
I'm starting to get out of bag to hyperventilate. Go ahead.
I can't say that with I'm sorry to chuckle. The Dignity Mortgage would have
kidding me?
Yes, no.
Dignity.
It's a dignified. Remember this dignified.
I feel like I'm at a funeral
transition
again.
out
Lord
of your
have
house.
Mercy. It is a funeral.
The Dignity Mortgage would have a higher initial interest rate for higher risk borrowers, but include rate cuts after 5 years.
Oh my gosh!
Of on-time payments.
I think we had those before.
Yeah. Well, with housing prices rising and interest rates falling, and builders building, some prominent housing advocates are calling for a new kind of loan for buyers with lower incomes or poorer credit profiles.
Wowzers!
Yeah, this is a new kind of blend of subprime loan. And
also, I'm sorry, can I just throw this out there? There's so many things that are wrong with what it is that you're reading right now. But okay, so just feasibly, you have a mortgage. Let's say that you start out paying a 7% rate. Okay.
Well, let me give you an example here.
Thank you.
As an example here, the proposal starts with a classic subprime trade-off: a higher rate for a higher risk clientele. Borrowers would pay, let's say, on average, 1.25% points above the going interest rate. Let's say maybe 4.75%. If more credit-worthy borrowers were paying, let's say, 3.5%. Now, the deal would get better if the borrowers made timely payments for 5 years. At that point, the extra money they had paid over that time in interest would be used to reduce the mortgage balance, and their rate would be cut to whatever borrowers with sterling credit and a 20% down payment were charged at the time the loan was made. Now, this would also take into consideration that you would have to make at least a minimum 10% down payment. And a lot of subprime loans, at least initially, 90% loan to value was the maximum loan to value when the subprime product initially came out. It wasn't
and
until...
then all those standards got thrown out the window.
And honestly, I've heard stories. Couple reps, pretty good friends that serviced our territory down here, went to work for New Century Mortgage, and they worked out of the Sacramento area. And it was two brothers. Well, one of the brothers went to work out of the corporate office in Sacramento, and he was privy to the this one regional manager had signing authority. So let's say the appraisal came in and it just didn't quite make it. It was a $575,000 loan. He had signing authority to be able to, quote-unquote, wave his little magic wand and make that loan work, regardless of the appraised value.
But
How you like them apples?
remember the financial institutions who had remember the entities who had a financial appetite for those loans, though, Kate? I mean, let's be real. Somebody has to buy this on the secondary market for them to be able to sell it.
And now I want to know, with those kinds of loans, so are they going to wrap those into more of these collateralized debt obligations and slap some ridiculous
type of insurance
credit rating on
But there are a lot of
some, I mean, which is another funny story that we have to talk about today. But that's just, hey,
how are they
it's the same thing as like high yield bonds.
Mm-hmm.
If there is a company that is more of a credit risk, they pay higher interest rates.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay? And that I think is totally fine. The problem is the way that these mortgages then are resold into the market, unless they're packaged with other subprime loans and they are labeled as such, we are going to get into another situation like this where investors are going to be fooled into thinking that they're buying X when it's really Y.
Right.
Correct. And that's our concern.
But then beyond that, my question about this and this particular moment in time, what happens if interest rates increase to a point that's higher than where, you know what I mean? Like, what if you can't get a decrease in that loan?
Right.
And then what happens if?
Well, then it becomes.
Is the buyer qualified on the idea that they're going to get a lower rate?
And how does that affect the marketability of that particular commodity?
Exactly.
Because this is a commodity that's bought and sold in the secondary market. So what happens if that? Is there some sort of
and honestly
sliding scale that as rates go up or rates go down, that the corresponding change in the rate of that particular loan? Here's the deal: you can't bank on that.
Right.
In other words, you can't bank on potentially lower. You can only bank on if you're an investor and you're wanting to purchase this secured the secured debt or CDO or whatever it is.
Right.
You can only bank on the fact that it's going to go up and what the yield is going to be, and there has to be a floor. There cannot be something, quote unquote, below the floor.
Right.
Which, okay. Yeah. So
and everybody rolled their eyes and sighed at the same time.
You weren't the only one.
My concern is that they are again devaluing real estate and the industry itself by doing these things or considering these things. And we have programs in place. We have USDA out in the outlying areas for low-income people who are looking to achieve home ownership. We have 2-1 buy-downs still, I think, with FHA. Don't they still have those? Where your interest rate starts a little bit lower and goes up over the next 2 years as your income rises because you're a young, new couple.
Right.
So we have places already for those folks, here locally at least.
I just think owning a home is the American dream. Like, it might be for some, but I don't think it's the American right. And I feel like the products that we put in place, like, almost make it seem like everybody is entitled to this, and it's like, and you need to find a way to make to be. No, what you need to do is save your money, have a down payment, and buy a house within and buy a house within an appropriate price range.
This article from the LA Times also states that no one would be allowed to merely state their income, and I think that was a huge part of the problem. Again, what were those variables that were in place that helped to create the perfect storm in the first place? Right. Unfortunately, too many folks had the availability or the readily accessible financing options,
right,
even though they didn't necessarily show the income on paper in order to qualify for it. And I think that was a huge lapse in judgment.
If you had a pulse, you got a loan back then. I mean, really.
It's just crazy.
Sign your name here.
There wouldn't be any sort of quote-unquote 100% financing. But then again, though, what if?
Right.
And that was one of the instruments that was very prevalent during the boom as well, and borrowers would need to put down at least 10% on this particular loan. Now, the new proposed loan would be structured to avoid those certain features like stated income and 100% financing that they feel helped contribute to the subprime implosion roughly about 6 years ago, setting off that chain reaction that nearly caused the financial universe to melt down and drag the economy into the worst downturn since the Great Depression.
And
at least they're requiring a bigger down payment.
But there's slightly a slippery slope here. I mean, they're really, really welcome.
Is it enough? Yeah. And is it enough to protect us from ourselves? And also, is it enough to really, protect us from getting into the next greatest perfect storm that we just saw, that we really haven't seen end, that we just saw start, within the last 10 years?
The financial industry is very innovative in that, like, they will always, the industry itself will always find a way to engineer a product to fit, like, to work with its way around maybe one rule, and it's like, come on. Like, just go back to the basics.
Yeah. And there is no such thing as a free lunch. Isn't that the first lesson you learn in economics?
Jeez. Already.
Wow. Again, if you have any real estate or mortgage related questions,
it's one of the first or second.
If you have any real estate or mortgage related questions, I tell you what, and we do as well. So give us a call. Hopefully we can help. It all starts with one call, and that's a call from you. Call us anytime. 800-979-3958. Again, that's 800-979-3958. We'd love to get a call from you. You can also go online, check out our resources on our website. Search for your new home or your next new home at reofresnohomes.com. To friend us on Facebook, use press 4 keywords.
Friend Valley White on Facebook.
Chat got your tongue? Or use press 4 keywords.
KMJ, call Valley White.
To call into the show anytime. We'd love to hear from you. Well, as we mentioned, we have Miss Kate Island here in the studio from UBS Financial Services to give us our Market Watch update. It's been a while since you've been in the studio, Kate. We're looking forward to hearing from you. Yes. Make sure you stay with us. This is the Real Estate Radio Network, helping to redefine real estate here on 105.9, the FM KMJ.
This program is brought to you by the Real Estate Radio Network. Visit realestateradio.us for more info. That's realestateradio.us.
Mortgage interest rates are at historic lows, and there's never been a more affordable time to buy real estate. Whether you're looking for your first home, moving up, or your next income-producing property, let the mortgage professionals at Valley White help. Valley White Homes has been helping homeowners with their mortgage needs since 1997. When it comes to the Valley's real estate, we know our way around the neighborhood. Call toll-free, 800-979-3958, and put the seasoned professionals at Valley White Homes to work for you. Valley White Homes, NMLS number 342062, 235-952, California Department of Real Estate License 01228460. Have you ever thought about going solar? It's never been easier to go solar than with a SunPower lease. You'll start saving money the very first day. Arise Solar has a team of energy consultants ready to help you determine if going solar is right for you. Start taking control of your energy costs. Contact Arise Solar, your local SunPower Elite dealer at 449-8989. That's Arise Solar at 449-8989. Or use press 4 keywords, Arise Solar.
Did you know that all the tickets you can buy on different websites come from the same place? Did you know that you can buy every ticket you need to any event in the country, the whole country, from Pete's Seats right here in Fresno? If that's the case, you need to call Pete's Seats. Any ticket, anytime. Sports, concerts, theater. Hey, there's Seats, and then there's Pete's Seats. Premium tickets for all events, local, national, worldwide. Don't settle for a regular seat when you can get a really good Pete's Seat. Online at peteseats.net or simply 294-SEAT. That's 294-7328.
How much should I be saving? When can I retire? What can I do to ensure that my estate will be left in the hands of my family once I'm gone? Is my hard-earned money safe in today's markets?
With all the uncertainty in today's world, all of us at the Island Group know it is our job to provide answers to these questions. Walk with us, the Island Group at UBS Financial Services. Call me, Kate Island, at 559-248-4097. That's 559-248-4097, and take the first step in protecting your financial future.
All rights reserved. UBS Financial Services, Inc. is a subsidiary of UBS AG. Member SIPC.
You're listening to Real Estate Radio Network with local expert Craig Barton. Now, here's Craig.
Well, we mentioned we've got Miss Kate Island from UBS Financial Services here in the studio with us for our Market Watch update. Great to have you back, kid.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
How were the Himalayas? I just want to know.
They were very
They were
good.
tall and cold.
Yes. They have good salt there.
Yeah, really? Mm-hmm. Wow, good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I ever want to
Himalayan pink salt, you never heard of it?
Yeah.
No. I'm just looking at you all dumbfounded. I'm all
Looking at a good face. Let me clarify. Go to your local Whole Foods store and pay, $12 for a 1 ounce of Himalayan pink salt.
Gotcha.
Courtesy of my trip.
Are we talking about her vacation? Okay.
Yes.
Alrighty.
So, Kate.
Yes.
Let's talk market.
Yeah.
A little crazy.
Crazy good.
Yeah, crazy good.
Crazy good, actually. Yeah. So it's been a while since I've been on. So the big joke after January was like the fiscal cliff that never was.
Yeah.
It was like all this talk, all this time spent discussing it and worrying about it, and it's like, and now we get to deal with it in March because we'll get to that. Yeah. But anyway, so. Coming off a great year, the S&P was up 16% on the nose, and January really continued those numbers. So just to kind of give you a recap, through January 31st, the S&P 500 was up 5.18%. That's a 60% annualized return if we keep on this pace. Not too bad.
Yeah.
To be clear, I do not think that the S&P is going to return 60% this year.
So we need to yield in March, is what you're thinking.
I think we might see a little bit of a pullback at some point in time.
A little play on words, wasn't it?
Yes, but even the NASDAQ, so the technology index, was up over 4%. Outside of the United States, the MSCI EAFE, which is a big international index, was up about 5.25%. Bonds did not fare so well, and this does go towards what I've talked about on the show a couple of times, just about the risk of rising interest rates. As I said before, yields backed up, and the 10-year is now around 2%, and we saw that in the Barclays Aggregate Bond Index actually was down about 70 basis points, so 0.7% in the month of January. So big disparity between the equity and the bond markets in the month of January. February, so far, I think it's been off to a little more of a rocky start. We've started to see, some up days and down days in the triple digits. So I think that January, we were just kind of riding the wave.
It has been a little bit of a roller coaster in February, hasn't it?
It has been, yeah. But I mean, great news, especially with some of the challenges that we face, bad weather. We have still high unemployment, the political fighting. I mean, it's like the market is just really kind of continued to go.
And let's be honest, the Niners lost the first weekend of February. I'm sure that has a lot to do with it.
That kicked it off.
I'm sure. It made everything a little shaky.
I heard that was already priced into the market. So.
Was it?
It probably was.
I'm not sure.
We didn't see a big drop on Monday, so after the Super Bowl, yeah. But, the good news is, and this is according to my firm, UBS, our wealth management research team, this was through about the first 3 weeks of January. About 2/3 of the companies that had announced earnings had beat earnings estimates, and almost the same number had beat sales estimates. So if you recall, we had talked last year that, we were seeing earnings beats, but we were seeing revenue just not doing so well. And that was a bad sign, because it's like top line growth isn't there. They're just monkeying with their costs in order to show better earnings. We're starting to see revenue pick up, which is good. It's still not as strong as we'd like it to be, but it's better, especially compared to the third quarter. Third quarter there was just 1.4% in earnings growth, which right now it looks like we're having about 6% earnings growth in the first quarter.
Good step in the right direction.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's huge. A lot of you may have seen the fourth quarter GDP numbers actually contracted, which would show that we're in a recession.
Right.
But the market did not receive that negatively, because when you look through the numbers, really the biggest negative came from a decrease in government spending, and a lot of that came from a decrease in military spending. The housing market was a huge positive contributor. Actually, capital business investment. So a lot of what was being held back because we had no clue what the tax code was going to be like. So that was somewhat alleviated in the fourth quarter, and we think that'll be another positive driver in the first quarter.
There was an expectation that money on the sideline was such a contributing factor.
Exactly. Yeah. And so and just what little of that was actually put to work had a huge positive effect on the economy. Now, I will say that, government spending was down 22.2% in the fourth quarter. It was huge. I would expect that with the challenges that we're going to face as far as getting a budget together, it's likely that we could see that same kind of negative effect from a decrease in government spending throughout this year. So hopefully the private sector, housing market, business spending, inventories, hopefully those are enough to drive some positive numbers.
Sure.
But because of the decrease in government spending, UBS does still expect that we're going to see about a 2% growth in the U.S. economy in 2013,
Gotcha.
Which isn't bad. But it's nothing spectacular. It's not that great. So, just what we've seen so far in the market, I expect that we're probably going to see some pullbacks here. So, as an investor, don't freak if that happens. It should happen. It would be healthy if we saw a little bit of a pullback.
Sure.
That helps.
Good stuff.
Yes.
So how about QE3? So
QE Infinity.
QE Infinity.
Yeah. So interestingly enough, the Feds announced QE3 in the fourth quarter, which we lovingly call QE Infinity, because essentially there's no end date to it. And what that is,
just the fact that there's no end date, wasn't that an attempt by the Fed to quote unquote put such a positive spin not only on the amount of money that they're willing to commit, but then also just the fact that they're willing to say, there's no end date.
They're basically all in.
Yeah.
They're all in. And so now
they had to be.
Yeah. Right now they're purchasing $85 billion a month in treasuries and mortgage-backed securities. So the fact that we saw the 10-year back up from 1.6 to 2, but you saw mortgage rates only maybe back up a quarter or less than that, that is attributable, I think, to the Fed action.
Gotcha. Meaning that it should have been worse?
It could have been worse, right?
In terms of the uptick of rates.
They are a buyer in that market, and they are holding rates low.
Gotcha.
What they're trying to do, and you can see by what's going on in the economy just in the private side. The Fed's actions are an attempt to grow the economy, and it looks like it's helping. The problem we had all of last year was that our politicians wouldn't get out of the way, or they wouldn't actually make a decision at any point in time to try and help that at all.
Right.
Yeah, and that's still an issue. But growth is moving forward. So whether you agree with it or not, the Fed action is helping. The issue is, okay, so they're buying $85 billion a month, which means that by the end of 2013, should they continue at this pace, their balance sheet, so the bonds that they hold on their balance sheet, are going to be roughly $4 trillion. Wow. So at some point in time, and it really in the bylaws of the Federal Reserve, that's not really their job. That's not really in the description of what they are supposed to do. So at some point in time, they're going to have to sell those bonds back in the market. And what's going to happen when they dump that supply in the market? This should be a concern for bond investors, because you could see rates move even higher. Then on top of that, you've got the Fed funds rate, which the Federal Reserve actually controls. And once they start moving that up, their long-term target is 4%. It's now at 0.25%.
Right.
So if that base rate moves that much, any time in the next 5 years, that will be a challenge for investors in the bond market. So
is the estimate that this just could be a bunch of worthless paper, or a bunch of worthless bond paper at that point?
Not necessarily worthless, but you have to have buyers. Because obviously, as a government, we're still going to be borrowing money.
Right.
We're not suddenly going to turn things around and only spend the money that we're taking in. So we're going to continue to borrow money, and then which are bonds issued onto the market. Then you're going to have the Fed that at some point in time needs to delever their own balance sheet. So what happens when you have those two things combined? Oh, and it's possible that China and Japan, who as of last year were the largest holders of our treasuries between 2 and 10 years, what happens if they're not there to buy those bonds in the capacity that they were? Like, we have to find buyers, which means what? In order to make that paper more attractive, you got to jack the rates up, which is going to make it even more challenging to pay off our debt because it's going to get more expensive as interest rates climb. So it's just, it's this thing that is, and right now it's really being held back by the fact that credit really isn't functioning as it should, quote unquote, with the money that's in the system. But like at some point in time when that occurs, we're gonna have an issue. I don't know if it's gonna be a year from now or 10 years from now. It depends on how long the Feds can kind of hold on and really affect the system in a way that's not natural.
Yeah. Again,
if that makes
manipulation.
sense.
Yeah, I mean, really.
Yeah.
I mean, they're manipulating it, and it at some point has to stop.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, and it's the same thing like with inflation. I mean, there's really a lid on inflation right now because unemployment is so high. And there, I know that the stated unemployment number right now is less than 8%. But if you actually take the unemployed, the underemployed, and the people that have dropped out of looking for a job, we're at about 14.4%.
And you know what? That's very poignant. That sums it up right there. It does. Totally and completely, because there are tons of folks that have stopped.
Right.
Absolutely stopped.
Absolutely.
Looking.
Absolutely.
And then, like you said, you factor in those that are underemployed.
Yeah. But hopefully, so on the positive side, hopefully this drive in the housing market, because again, the bleed through effects of the positiveness in the housing market can help create more jobs.
Right.
The oil and natural gas boom, there's supposed to be a lot of jobs that are created from that industry. So hopefully that will start to bring those numbers down. But then look out for inflation at that point in time, because when you have more people working, when credits really, when banks aren't sitting on the cash that they're sitting on now, inflation is going to be an issue. Great for the stock market, possibly good for commodities, great for your house prices, but all those people that are sitting in bonds, it could definitely present a challenge. So not to spook any bond investors, I mean, I think there are ways that you can mitigate that risk, and you need to work with your advisor to do that. But at the same time, it's going to be a challenge. There is no doubt about it. And then lay on top of that, what's going on politically, and it's just scary. So what's interesting is that even though the market has done so well, there is still a lot of fear. And I think rightfully so, because there are some challenges ahead that are going to be
It's definitely
difficult.
choppy waters.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. But, on the whole, I mean, it's always nice to see the market up. People are still making money. I think there are areas for opportunity. So it's just I think that you got to kind of be careful and really pay attention. Or have a great advisor.
Like Kate.
That would be my preference. But, however you want to get there.
Hey, real quick, let's talk about the debt ceiling.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Yeah, that little thing.
That little thing, yeah.
You just tried to wash right over it.
I did, I know. I was trying to stay positive today. So 3 key dates to look out for. Number 1 is March 1st. So that is when the whole fiscal cliff that never was. So all of those sequestration cuts, that's when those are now supposed to occur.
Yeah, they're trying to build a bridge between now and then.
Exactly. And so, and in fact, earlier, good luck with that. Earlier this week, Obama said basically to his government that we need to pass a smaller sequestration cut package because there's no way we're going to have a budget together by then. Oh, surprise. They're not going to do something on time. Shocking.
Well, at least he's honest this time.
Yeah,
at least he's telling us the truth.
So anyway, there are $1.2 trillion of cuts that are supposed to begin on March 1st. Really, the cuts for this year are $85 billion, which I know is a lot of dollars, but it's a drop in the bucket. That's 2 or 3 days of our interest on our debt.
Yeah.
So it's not, it may have some kind of effect. Literally, I wish I was joking. The second date to look for is March 27th. This is when Congress has to vote on another appropriations bill, essentially just to fund the government. So they have to vote to do that. The third date is May 19th. So the debt ceiling was actually just completely pushed out, and they're not putting a hard cap on it. So before our government was allowed to borrow up to $16.4 trillion. We've blown through that. Okay. And instead
do they have to call Capital One to get their credit limit raised?
Essentially they do, yeah. Okay. And Timmy Geithner, our Treasury Secretary, he's out.
This is Peggy. Oh, that's Discover. Sorry.
Yeah,
God,
yeah.
I get those two mixed up.
So anyway, instead of saying, okay, we're only going to allow this amount of borrowing now, Congress has just said, we're just going to allow the government to borrow as much as they need to keep us funded through May 19th, and then hopefully we'll work on it at that point in time. So now we're just essentially like open-ended borrowing, and we're not putting a cap on the debt ceiling. The thought is that the GOP will use that decision timeline, I guess, as a point in time to say, okay, like these are the cuts that need to occur, and they're going to tie it to the debt ceiling, but they haven't thus far. They're just kind of letting this thing go.
What makes anybody think that it's going to be any different?
I don't know. Wishful thinking. Yeah. I don't know. So interestingly enough, and this is kind of the little bit of the spooky part, UBS, our wealth management research team, actually, to see it in writing is different than just hearing an analyst say it, because it's actually in writing now. It's committed down on paper.
Well, it had to go through compliance, so
and it had to go through compliance, which probably took. That is real. But they think that there is a higher possibility than not that we will see a government shutdown. Probably shorter than a week, but that it will likely happen because either the appropriations bill won't be agreed upon, or that kind of thing. So that will not be good for the market.
No.
This is another story that I'll be quick about it because I know we're kind of running short on time, but for anybody who saw it, the Department of Justice is suing some of the ratings agencies.
Yes.
Okay. And they're suing them for this was for ratings that they applied to these collateralized debt obligations, where a lot of the time were just actually mortgage-backed bonds that were combined in a big package, and then they slapped a AAA sticker on it, and it was lies on lies.
Down the road, right.
Okay, so I think it's funny that the U.S. now, we are on the cusp of being downgraded again. Right?
Yep.
And just before that happens, the DOJ files a lawsuit saying, these ratings agencies, you really shouldn't rely on their ratings. I just think that happens to be a real coincidence. Very ironic that, we're probably going to get downgraded, and just before that, the DOJ saying, don't pay attention to their ratings. They really screwed it up in the past, so likely they're not doing a good job now. It's like, come on. So, but the interesting thing is, if we do have a government shutdown, I think that would probably push the issue of a rating downgrade. But similar to
make it real.
And make it real, yeah. But similar to what we saw with our previous downgrade, that might actually boost the Treasury market for a little bit, because, again, it's looked at as like the safest asset class. I personally think that actually might be a boon for gold at that point in time, but it's kind of hard. It's hard to know how that's going to go down. But don't be shocked if we get downgraded again.
I think it's going to be a boon for gold as well as a zombie outbreak supplies. I really do. So make sure you start saving your perishables.
Okay, now, how do we feel?
My grandma used to can a lot, and I still have some of those saved up.
I hope they're still good. But nonetheless, what do we think the public's going to do? What do we think? Are we going to see the public finally cry out? I don't know.
Well, and how bad does
I'm just
it have
throwing
to
that
get?
out. I'm playing devil's advocate here.
Well, hey, when you'll see it is the 2014 midterm elections, which I know sounds like it's a ways away, but really it's not that far away.
No,
I think really if people are angry about it, I think that's when you could definitely see it. And I don't know, it's hard to know if I want to say kind of like the lax negotiating that the GOP has really enacted during this period of time. Like, I don't know if that's their attempt to just say, hey, give the other side everything they want. We're going to kind of be hands off, and then everyone will, you get what you get. Yeah. And then maybe the midterm elections will swing a little bit more into the favor of the GOP. Like, again, it's hard to know if that's an actual strategy.
They're trying to feed rope. In other words, here, take all the rope you want, and then we're going to try to hang
with
you.
it. Right. Exactly. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how all of these negotiations go down in March and then again in May.
And how it all plays out.
And that's really why our team and UBS thinks that, hey, we could still see a pullback, because these negotiations, if the U.S. government shuts down, even if it's just for one day, we know that we're not going to default on our debt. eventually we're going to pay those bills. But like that's a problem.
Yeah.
That will create a problem in the market. So use it as an opportunity. You know, if you really want to, if you feel like you've missed the boat on this whole equity rally, you know, I personally would say don't be impatient, because I think you'll get a better buying opportunity. You can thank your politicians for that. You know, that you might get a better buying opportunity.
Wow.
So, yeah, that's my spiel on that. I mean, it's the same malarkey. This is a nice way to put it without using a 4-letter word that we've seen from our
politicians
that we've seen all along.
Yeah, this is nothing new.
This is not
nothing new. But we are starting to get into like uncharted territory when it's like we're not really raising the debt ceiling, but we're raising the debt ceiling.
Right.
And you know, if there's a government shutdown, it wouldn't necessarily be the first time that it happened, but that's not going to bode well for I think for any market.
No,
I think that's not a positive.
I'm just waiting for public. I'm really truly watching to see how their reaction is. I see what the press does. I see what leaders are doing, but what does the public feel, and how are they going to speak out when this?
And what are the variables that actually have to be in place? And when I say variables that we're all experiencing, could it be, $8 gasoline, or
what is it?
And you had mentioned also like food staples and those particular commodities, and what potentially happens when you hit someone. In terms of the prices for those food staples, and they go up, they double, triple, quadruple, 1,400% higher, and then you've got, let's say, $8 to $10 gasoline, and
that will cause
what are the
lot
variables?
Of social unrest.
It will absolutely.
Well, and if you look at it too, like what's going on with the consumers. So what happened at the first of the year to everybody's paychecks? They're smaller because Social Security taxes, payroll taxes went up to that 6.2%.
Exactly.
And, they should have been there all along. We were taking money from a system that's broke anyway.
Right.
But still, it was a nice pay raise for everybody in the interim. And so you've got that, and then you're going to have, potential shutdown of the government. So I agree. I mean, I think there will likely be a big public outcry. But at the same time, it's like, hey, if people's home prices are going up, there's a positive wealth effect. And so I don't know if that'll be offsetting. The market has done well. So, that could potentially offset the emotion of it.
Yeah, I just look at how many government employees that will affect, even for that one day. Because we all are aware we're a little top heavy.
Right.
As far as how many employees.
Absolutely.
And those departments. And I'm just curious to see how that's going to roll.
Yeah,
well,
absolutely.
Let me throw something in here real quick. I heard something this week, and I don't know if this is conspiracy theory or what have you, but that the intent of our government currently is to, with all the changes as far as, hey, I can't go get a blood test. My health insurance will no longer pay for a blood test for some sort of yearly annual screening or some sort of determination whether you have an illness or not. And that was very real to someone that I was talking to that said, hey, I went in and they would not pay for this particular, my insurance would not pay for this particular blood work. After the fact that I had seen I don't recall specifically the number, but it was high 20s, below 30% increase in his monthly premiums for his insurance. So not only had he seen this increase, but now he also saw that there were certain services not being covered anymore. And that the statement was made that, in the long run, the government figures that if we, how did he put this? That we make us sicker and basically thin the herd. A little crazy, a little crazy, but
that is kind of a conspiracy theory, but it's not. Not that far.
Not so far fetched. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So we're not going to, and subsequently you're not going to be able to pay for it. So how many flies are going to be dropping?
So they're trying to kick the baby boomers? Is that what they're trying to do? Elimination of the baby boomers. Huh?
I think of any developed nation, we have the highest portion of our GDP like going to medical costs,
to healthcare, and you've said that before.
Yeah, and it's with the whole Obamacare, the ACA, there are going to be more insured people, which is good for everybody. The problem is that we don't know how the state exchanges are going to be run. We don't really know what the effect on, Medicare or Medicaid is going to be. I mean, likely that's just going to expand, but my goodness, that's a program that we can't afford now.
Right.
So expanding it, without making some real changes to how it's administered and that sort of thing, I mean, it's a problem. But premiums are going up.
Oh, my gosh.
Premiums are going up.
Mine went up 36%.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
That's such a big cost. So people with your financial planning, I hope that you have considered that, or if you'd like to consider that.
Consideration.
Really, because the 1.7% inflation that we saw last year, that does not reflect, I think, someone's true their personal inflation, especially if you're older or if you have health issues.
Life change.
Exactly. Or if a big part of your budget goes to food. You know what I mean? Like if a large part of your disposable income is allocated in those ways, this is a very inflationary environment. And, to talk about the social unrest, I mean, when you start getting regular raises of 36, 40%, 50% increase in your premiums, it's not going to be very long before people are going to have a real issue with this.
Well, and you said before, invest in energy. Invest in healthcare.
Yep.
And those are where we see the rising costs.
Exactly.
And rising prices.
Yeah, and we are still saying that now. Like regardless of if you agree with the legislation,
that's where the money's going.
The money's going there. Absolutely.
You can either spend time complaining about it, or you can call your financial advisor and make sure that you're prepared. And I mean that wholeheartedly, because bottom line is, if you're not prepared, you're preparing to fail.
But now, if you don't have a financial plan, and it really, I mean, there are times when it's too late to put a financial plan together. I'll just be totally honest about that. But,
when they're shutting the lid.
No, seriously. That would be one time, yes.
Sure.
Which won't be long at the rate the government's acting. Is what you're thinking,
right.
Huh?
But really, and I can talk about this next time I come on, there have been some major shifts in just return expectations across asset classes, but when you apply to that also increased inflation and the challenges that we might face, I really think that you need to have a plan, and there's no time that's better than the present to actually put that together. So get with the planner, give me a call, shoot me an email, whatever. It's something that I think everybody needs to have, really, no matter what age group you fall into.
Oh yeah, totally.
So.
Well, again, if you have any real estate or mortgage-related questions, or questions regarding the information that Kate, Michelle, or myself share with you on our show today, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to be a resource for you. Bottom line, give us a call, 800-979-3958. Again, that's 800-979-3958. You can also go to our website and check out our resources online at REO-FresnoHomes.com. To friend us on Facebook, use Press 4 Keywords.
Friend Valleywide on Facebook.
Or to call into the show, use Press 4 Keywords.
KMJ, call Valleywide.
And you can call into the show anytime. Well, a big thank you to Kate Island from UBS Financial Services. Kate, if they want to get a hold of you, what's your phone number again?
It is 559-248-4097. 248-4097.
Kate Island from UBS Financial Services. Also, a big thank you to Michelle Pettis-Cavalli, our little munchkin in the studio today, for joining us. We love having you here, kid. Thanks so much. Johnny, thanks so much, buddy. You always do a great job. Thanks for getting up on Sunday morning. I know it cuts into your schedule, seeing as Saturday night ended so early. I mean, yeah. Our goal with the Real Estate Radio Network is to get you, our listeners, the timely and accurate truth about your local real estate market, so we can help bring you
back home.
Don't forget to tune into the Real Estate Radio Network next Sunday at 7 a.m. right here on 105.9, the FM KMJ. Local news, local talk.
The preceding program was paid for by the Real Estate Radio Network.